So Jason Kenney is doing the things that the federal government isn't going to do or should be doing, and we're just leading the charge on our own. And so will he install our own Chief Firearms Officer? Probably. Will that CFO refuse to confiscate Albertans' firearms? I don't know if that's his job to do that. We've got one from my friend Craig McDonald with the cutest little kids in the world. He gives us $13.99 Canadian, and he says, "Hi guys, thoughts on whether Jason Kenney will be successful in installing Alberta's own Chief Firearms Officer, and will that CFO refuse to confiscate Albertans' firearms?" I would not be surprised if Jason Kenney actually does do that. He did announce yesterday that he's doing other things that the federal government won't do. We as Albertans, we are putting what's called an Alberta checkpoint in our international arrivals at the Edmonton and Calgary airports, because we know eventually Justin Trudeau is just going to open up the borders to another free-for-all. And eventually there will also be an Alberta checkpoint at Coots. So that's our busiest land border crossing with Montana. And this Alberta checkpoint is going to be staffed by Alberta Health Services officials, and they're going to use infrared thermal temperature checks and other health screening that we know the feds aren't doing, and they're implementing advanced health and sanitation protocols all across the airport that aren't in place because the feds aren't doing it. So Jason Kenney is doing the things that the federal government isn't going to do or should be doing, and we're just leading the charge on our own. And so will he install our own Chief Firearms Officer? Probably. Will that CFO refuse to confiscate Albertans' firearms? I don't know if that's his job to do that. I guess Jason Kenney would have to advise the Crown not to prosecute us for not turning in our firearms in accordance with federal legislation. And I guess that would fall on his very red Tory Justice Minister, Doug Schweitzer, who is not a fan of Rebel News, if I recall correctly, but it would fall on him. So I'd love to hear Jason Kenney make a pronouncement that he would advise the Crown not to prosecute, but I haven't heard that yet.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Sheila, if the Alberta CFO started carrying out Justin Trudeau's bidding in Alberta, he would be the most unpopular person in the province. And that's saying something, given that I believe Rachel Notley still resides in Alberta these days.
That's an excerpt from a daily live stream show that I do every day at 12 noon Eastern time. I talk about the stories of the day, play some fun videos, and most importantly, I take your questions and comments in what YouTube calls a super chat. If you like that, please tune in live. It's way more fun that way. You can join the conversation. And every day at 8 p.m., I have a special produced show with a whole monologue, and I interview guests, and I read my fan mail and my hate mail. You can learn more about both my daily live show and the nightly premium show at rebelnews.com.